if you say why should you be deprived, Hashem helps you. I know everyone was waiting first to be able to daven with MINYAN, to be able to hear another Kriyas HaTorah, to be able to answer Yeshmei Rabbi, to be able to daven b'tzibur, to be in Beis Medrash, in mitzvah of davening in the Beis Medrash, when Shlomo Melech was dedicating the Beis Hamikdash. So he said to Rabbi Hashem, Shemati al tfilas avdecha vel tachnunav. You listen to the tefillah of your servant and to our begging of you. We were waiting for this. We were waiting when we could come into Beis Medrash already. We were sitting and davening. As long as we were davening at home and we couldn't go, then it's considered like we daven in shul. Because the Chazal teaches someone wants to do a mitzvah and he can't do the mitzvah. It's malo of akosav, ki'ilu asa. Did it like he did it. Did it like the person did it. And the Chassidish Svarim bring down, not only that, it's even better than when you did it yourself. Because if the Rabbi Shalom does it, that's why it says malo. Because when Rabbi Shalom makes like you daven, then when we're davening at home, we couldn't have a minyan, we laned at home. We did everything at home. We had the laning and davening together on the Zoom. But malo of akosav ki'ilu, it's considered like we did it. Those people who couldn't say Kaddish, those people who couldn't have aliyahs and needed a malo of akosav, it's considered like we had it. And it's even considered higher than we had it. So we really, all these months, we were waiting, Lama Negora, we're waiting why should we be deprived? And we did our shtadlos and Baruch Hashem, 2 weeks ago we spoke to the parliament and we asked them, they should get from 5 people gathering to 10 people gathering, because 5 people, you don't have a minyan, you don't have a quorum. And Baruch Hashem, tonight, 12 o'clock, we could all have minyanim. Wherever you are outside, you could have minyanim. You can make it, you don't need two backyards, you don't need porches. You could get 10 people together wherever you are and have a minyan, Baruch Hashem. And the second thing, Baruch Hashem, the Rabbi Hashem, listen to our tefillah. Samachti ba'oimli beis Hashem neilech. The simcha we have, we could go back to the Beis Medrash. We have to run back to the Beis Medrash. This week's parsha we have the Avera of Kal Yisrael. One of the Averas, the 2 nuns that we have, is because they ran away from Har Sinai. We want to run to the shul. The second we could go to shul, that's why we'll have a minyan tomorrow already. By night, it's the first minyan we could have to run to the shul, to be able to be in shul 5:10. Well done, to be able to show the Rabbi Shalom. Baruch Hashem was zoicha to daven Beis Medrash. Baruch Hashem, the Rabbi Hashem was giving us after 3 months, exactly 3 months from when we stopped Gimel Chadoshim. 3 months that we didn't have the schus to be in a Beis Medrash. We didn't have a schus to daven in the Beis Medrash. The Sefer Torah, we're crying in the Beis Medrash. Everyone heard the song that Avi and Baruch made. The Sefer Torah there in Beis Medrash, we're crying. Where are all the people who used to lay in it? Where are all the Ahmed was crying? Where are the people? The Beis Medrash was crying for us. But because we want Rabbi Shalom listen to our tefillas, and we have to thank Hoydel Hashem Ki Tov, Ki Lo'olam Chazdai. But we have to remember, now we're coming into the Beis Medrash, we have to remember Mikdosha Tiro, that if we were kicked out 3 months in Beis Medrash, means Rabbi Shalom wants us to better ourselves and realize what a Beis Medrash really is. We miss the Beis Medrash so much, and the Beis Medrash missed us. But the Beis Medrash missed us for davening, for learning, not for other things that we do, not for schmoozing during davening, not to make a kiddush during davening, not to bring in phones and talk in the Beis Medrash on the phones. The Beis Medrash is, so we have to take upon ourselves, now we're coming back into the Beis Medrash, that will give you the proper covet. If a parent kicks a child out 3 months, and then the parent says, come back in, the child knows that for 3 months, I missed you so much. And now I realize what you are. I realize what a Beis Medrash is. I realize the Kedusha of the Beis Medrash. So when we come back, we have to resolve that we'll take upon ourselves to really understand what it means, Mikdoshi Torah. That the mitzvah, so the first day tomorrow we start davening, and Shabbos we start davening, And I just want to mention, Corona is still around. The Magefa is still around. Melech by that tefillah, he said, "Dever kiyev del bichas v'shalom Magefa." The tefillah we daven in the shul should take away. Maybe the schus will go into the shuls. We'll daven Hashem should take away the Magefa. But we have to remember that Corona is still here. Corona is still here, and we have to do everything chas v'shalom not to get sick and not to make others sick and not to make others chas v'shalom get very sick. And that's our chiyuv. So anyone who chas v'shalom has one of the symptoms or was next to somebody in the last 14 days that had symptoms or was out of town in the last 14 days, should know that he's chas v'shalom if he doesn't tell us. And I know the first cases that came here in Toronto, in the Hamish Island, came from a person by a simcha, did not want to tell anybody he had it. And from that was megalgal. One person, if you come, al pi halacha, you consider a roidev, a person who comes to shul and knows that he might have it, or knows he might, is over, someone is called a roidev and it's a mitzvah to get rid of him. Chas v'shalom, a person like that has to be, you have to know that it's a chiv. If you know that you might have it, it's better not to come to shul, it's better to daven. And also, a person should remember that even though it's a mitzvah to daven in shul, it's a mitzvah to daven in MINYAN, but pikuach nefesh comes first. Anyone who is chas v'shalom is compromised or challenged should be careful. Like we mentioned, anyone over 70 should really call up before they go. And you have to remember, coming into a shul, you have to be very careful that everyone has to wear a mask from beginning to end, because inside a building where the droplets go around, especially in the summer, we have the air conditioning on, and it's chas v'shalom. If someone, that's what you have to, everyone has to wear a mask and has to, when you come into the building, you have to sanitize your hand. When you go out of the building, you sanitize your hand. We have to remember that we still have Corona around, and chas v'shalom, through one of us, if we get sick, we're chayiv al nafshoy, and if we make others sick, we're chayiv al nafshoy. Since everyone, the elders also, anyone who can't come, anyone's compromised who can't come, says lama nigora. Why should it be worse? Why should a person who can't come to shul not daven with MINYAN? So I still advocate davening with the MINYAN outside for those who can't come into shul. Davening with a MINYAN and outside. Adrab, I'm telling people, make those minyanim, do a chesed with those who can't come into shul. It's like if someone has an option, you come to shul, or he could make sure there's a MINYAN for those who can't come to shul. The mitzvah of chesed that he does is greater than going into shul. So I think we should have minyanim, and now you don't have to have two backyards. You can have one backyard and enough space. But I want to again restate that even in minyanim outside, people should wear masks, especially the balkoira and the baltefillah, especially if you're giving aliyah to a person and next to you, chas v'shalom. I heard in some of the minyanim they were giving to people who are compromised, standing next to balkoira was reading without a mask. People who are older got aliyahs without a mask. I mean, we do it. We don't give any covet to that person by giving them. So even in the minyanim, the outdoor minyanim, we have to be very careful with distancing. We have to be careful wearing masks and be careful. Chas v'shalom, no one should get sick. But I'm saying, people should know, if you're really challenged, there's nothing wrong with davening at home. And malol of a kosev, it's just like you daven in shul. Just like, so first thing you remember, it's nothing wrong. A person should remember, you could daven at home. If you feel chas v'shalom that it's a danger for you or somebody next to you, if you have a family member that will be compromised by you coming, don't come to shul and don't go to a MINYAN even. There's no chiv to go to a MINYAN, daven at home, and the Rabbi will consider it like you davened in the basement with the MINYAN, with the biggest MINYAN. But those who could come to shul, and especially the elder people over 70, if you don't have antibodies, really you shouldn't come to shul. If you don't have antibodies, if you didn't have corona and you didn't have it, it's really better not to come to shul, because you never know, chas v'shalom, if you never, people who are challenged, health challenge, and you come to shul, you never know what could happen, even with all the precautions. With all the precautions, anyone who over 70 who doesn't know he had corona and doesn't have antibodies should really better daven outside. And even outside, you have to make sure it's done properly. Because chas v'shalom, if you get sick, chas v'shalom, if a person, and still around, people have to remember. And that's the reason you wear a mask is not only protect yourself, it's protect others. If Hashem, somebody's going around, if you didn't check yourself today that you were negative, you might have corona today. It takes a few days till it comes out, 2 weeks. And Chas v'sholom, if you're talking, especially if you talk loud, and if you lane, or you daven for Amid, or you sing, it goes all around, even outside, and especially inside. So when we come to shul now, first we come with the right decorum, to remember Mikdash Torah, to remember the Mismedrash. Everyone will have a designated place. That's a place you should daven. And that's what tonight we have, that everyone should register where they have to daven, in which minyanim they want to daven. We're going to discuss it later. I mean, tomorrow morning we're going to have a minyan 5:10 for Neitzachama, then a minyan 10 to 7. And everything is going to be in the new shul. And then 8:15, all the minyanim, and everyone should have a designated seat. And again, everyone should remember that the best thing is that if you come to shul, you sanitize your hand when you come in. And the best thing is we could have some Lysol when you finish davening, wipe off your place. Everyone should bring their own siddur, the chumash, everything. Then the svarim should not be used for the first few weeks till we find out exactly what the corona is. That nothing should be interchanged. Remember, when you're doing the biggest mitzvah to shoymer nafshay v'shoymer achiv. You can, and we thank the Rabbi for giving us the privilege now to come to shul, and we have to ultimately understand what a shul means and come into the shul with that proper. But the first health, aberracious bara. The first things you have to remember, health. If it's not healthy for you to come to shul, to go to main, don't go. And if it's not healthy for you to cause others sick, don't come. Stay home. And it's for your good and for the Klal Yisrael's good. One should help that we should come to shul and together. And this week, the first week, we're not going to give aliyahs. The Balkoyer will get all the aliyahs, first 7 aliyahs, and say Kaddish, and then make a bracha the face, make a bracha at the beginning, bracha at the end, and then make a bracha after and say the Haftarah. Balkoyer will be the Tzorach Nosos. It shouldn't be too many. And the Gabba does not have to stand by the Bima next to the Balkoyer. We could institute afterwards. We could have a petition between the Balkoyer then. But meanwhile, this week, that's what we're doing. The same thing by Mincha. The Balkoyer will have all the aliyahs. And since there's no eating, the kitchens will be closed upstairs and downstairs. No eating or drinking in shul. You come to shul, only one purpose, to daven. And there's no more greater cover to a shul. And then, like they gave out a whole kolkara in Lakewood and other cities, that we should learn not to talk dvarim b'teilim beis medrash. We come to beis medrash for one reason. We come to daven. Congregating before and afterwards brings people to skana, especially if you don't keep distance, especially if you don't have a mask on. Whether you're coming to shul to daven and you leave after davening. There's one shul in New York that was open the whole time. The shul, the Philipson shul, over there, the whole time they're open because they had every person had a designated place. He never moved out of his place from the time he came in till he left. And there was no talking, and everyone left separate. No one bumped into each other. And the government allowed it because they knew that everyone is in a separate place, and it wasn't considered a gathering. It was considered everyone is doing their own tefillah. And that's what we should know. Come to shul, we don't talk, come to daven, we leave. And davening should take as fast as possible, so you shouldn't have to stay too long. But daven normal davening, and daven with complete kavanah, and after davening, no congregating, no schmoozing. You leave after davening, and there'll be special doors going in and out. The Rebbe should help that by us running to shul and showing the Rebbe will be mekabel our tefillas, like Shalom Melech davened, that anything that happens, our tefillah should be mekubel in our Beis Hamikdash ma'at, and from this will be zoicha to the Beis Hamikdash agadol, the gula b'meir b'yameinu amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Lowy. Thank you for your guidance and for your leadership till now and from this point further. Before I introduce Dr. Philipson to go over the exact rules and regulations, I just want to point out that these rules and regulations were collected based on a lot of discussions, and I understand a lot of people's good intentions by sending to me or other members of the loop regulations from other places. They have collected information from a variety of sources. There's no reason to send me further information about a shul doing this or a beis medrash somewhere else doing that. It's all been included. It's all there. Certainly some suggestions can work, but I would ask you to please refrain from sending us additional information. Now, normally I would tell you that Dr. Philipson, this is the third time he's appearing on Loop Radio and he should deserve some kind of prize as a guest, but the reality, he's not a guest. He's a member, so he's not eligible for a prize. So I'm going to share screen, and if you can go through in a few moments some of the highlights of the rules. The Rav covered some of them. Please pick the rest out, what you feel is important. Underline, of course, that as the Rav said, Corona is still here. And afterwards, we'll get to more particulars of the minyanim, questions that people have, and then Avigdor with the poll, so everybody can commit to specific minyan. Go ahead.
Akiva, it's important that you mentioned that this is a very special evening because Dr. Philipson is at home tonight. He's not in his office.
Yeah, Tuesday nights I'm at my office late. So first of all, it's really nice being back here. And a lot of my ability to give some guidance and help out with this is because of a lot of work from other doctors from the Kol HaKavod organization. And we've had many, many meetings, and they've put in a lot of effort. So it's due to them that I can help you. So I want to give them a round of applause first. And the two real key things that the public health wants is masks, and then also a good record of who is at each minyan for contact tracing. The main way that coronavirus is transmitted is with droplets. So when you talk, when you sing, when you cough, when you sneeze, that expels droplets from your lungs. And those droplets, if they're inhaled, if people touch them and then they touch their mouth, their eyes, their nose, that can then infect them. And wearing masks really cuts down on the expulsion of these droplets, and it protects you a little bit, but it really protects everybody else around you. So it's very important that everybody wears them, because even if you're young and healthy and you may get sick, but probably not that sick, by wearing a mask, you're helping everybody else. And if you can't wear a mask, then can wear a proper face shield, and that does cut down on transmission as well. So the other key thing is excluding people who are at risk of infecting others. So these are the people who have a travel history because there might be a risk of them being infected. They are around people who are sick, or they have symptoms of being sick as well. And they really need to stay away from the show and stay away from other people, because the only way we can get back to normal is we stop the transmission completely. And that's why it's really important to really be strong in avoiding putting other people at risk. So that's where the first guidelines are. And if you have traveled, really don't come to shul. Give it 2 weeks, and then you can participate fully. The other thing is those who are more at risk. So these are people who are over 70. If they are high blood pressure, obesity, immunocompromised, diabetes, all of those put people more at risk. And so you have to be very careful for your own health. So hopefully nobody is going to be infected, but you want to doubly make sure that you won't get severely sick if you do get infected. The other thing is it's probably better at the moment not to be learning with people, chavrusas or things like that, because just the exposure is so much greater if you're sitting across from somebody and for a longer amount of time, because people will only get sick with coronavirus if they've received a certain number of viral molecules. So the longer people are close together, the greater the risk. So avoiding that, also avoid about 10% of cases are by contact. So that is if somebody touches something and somebody else touches it afterwards. It's a smaller proportion. The greater important thing is keeping the distance from everybody. Everybody should be 6 to 8 feet away from each other and wearing the mask. But hand sanitization really does help. And so you go into the shul, you put on hand sanitizer, and that will protect you against everybody else who's touched that doorknob. And that will also clean your hands so that you're not going to cause other people to get it later on. Same thing when you leave the synagogue, you touch that door handle. Even better than touching the door handle, use your elbow or your shirt, or even just back up against the door handle, and that way you're not exposing yourself. And then put on hand sanitizer after that as well. Bringing in your own siddur and chumash and talis really does help to cut down on transmission, because there's less things that people touch together. The recommendation is only to have people who are obligated in davening in a MINYAN at the moment. So children over the age of 13 can participate, and that's as long as they'll be able to sit down at their seat the whole time and not walk around or schmooze. And that's the important part about not walking around and schmoozing, is just as important to adults. And ideally, people come in, they daven, and then they leave without any congregating. And the risk of transmission of when people are eating or other things is much higher. So that's why there's the rule against not having any communal meals together, and no kiddushes and no chicken, and even having coffee, things like that, because to drink coffee you have to remove your mask, and that puts everybody at risk. It's important that there is somebody who's appointed for each MINYAN just to remind people of the rules, and it's be nice to them. They're actually trying to help you and help the whole community. And it's only if we follow the rules will we be able to proceed further on and be more normal and have the rules removed. So if they point something out to you, please just say thank you and then go on with it. And it's also important to minimize the number of people coming from outside. So this is why only shul members should participate in the MINYANs. And ideally, if you can stick to the same MINYAN, that's much better as well, because that just minimizes the risk of it going from one person to another if anybody does get infected. And the signing up for each MINYAN every day then just helps keep track of who was where, so that if we do have to do contact tracing, we'll be able to do it and make sure that everybody is isolated, and that prevents it going further. Did I miss anything else? Oh, and bathrooms can go to the bathrooms, but when you go into the bathroom, make sure you don't touch your face during that time. And after you leave, use hand sanitizer. That just prevents you having picked up any viruses in that high contact surface area, and prevents it being sent on to other people. and prevents you from getting infected.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Philipson. I just have a question here for the Rav that was sent in. Somebody wanted to know that if they did test positive to corona and now they've recovered, do they have to bench a goimel? I guess when eventually they get an aliyah, or if they get an aliyah in the backyard minyan.
It depends how sick they were. If they just had it like I had it, they don't have, I just had it very minimum. But if they were very sick from it, they had a choyle shenafel amitta, and they were, but then they were in danger, then they should bench. And you don't have to have an aliyah to bench goimel. You come to shul and there's 10 people there, you bench goimel in front of 10 people. You don't have to have an aliyah. So when people come to shul on Shabbos, and they want to bench goimel, they just, they say they want to bench goimel, and they can bench goimel. They don't need an aliyah to bench goimel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Udi and Ralph are here. They also put a lot of work in organizing the Beis Medrash. And from what I understand, Udi, all three Batei Medrash have now been set up that they're socially isolated. Could you explain a little bit what should people expect when they go into the Beis Medrash? What are they going to see?
Sure. So everything has been set up. Thank you, David Lightman, Naftali Sturm, Dave Angelevsky, and several others who I'm going to forget for helping us turn the Beis Medrash around very quickly, very short order, not during work hours and during work hours. So thanks everybody for taking care of that. And so basically we turn the tables horizontally, so similar to a configuration that was somewhat tested before, and according to the guidelines to make sure that there's sufficient spacing between people at the tables in the main Beis Medrash and the old one, as well as the one downstairs. The larger tables have 2 seats that are separated by a stack of chairs to prevent droplets and any kind of interaction that might be an issue in regard to transmitting anything chas v'shalom. There are also, I think, 6 feet wide aisles that will allow for people to get to where they have to get to and come back and be able to exit and enter the shul safely in the various rooms that we're going to be davening in. So that's sort of what the configuration is. So the tables are all sideways and horizontal as opposed to what we're traditionally used to, where they go in the opposite direction.
Just a sidebar to it. What's with the Ezras Nashim, and if women want to come to daven on Shabbos, are they invited? Is there space for them?
So,
Yeah, so I think the Rab's going to answer that.
Again, what's the question?
if women are able to come to shul the Shabbos.
First week, we don't want women to come because we want to test it. And women usually are in the habit of being very friendly to each other and congregate. So the first week we do not. We'll see what happens afterwards. The first week we won't have any women coming.
Okay, thank you. So Udi and Ralph, I just want to go through this again so it's clear. So tomorrow Shachris is 6:50. There's a Nate's Minyan, and that's going to be in the main Beis Medrash. The 6:50 Minyan is going to be in the main Beis Medrash as well.
That's correct.
And the 8:15 is again in the main Beis Medrash.
Rich, I think there was a correction. I believe it's 8 o'clock, not 8:15. Rabbi Lowy, 8 o'clock.
I saw they wrote it. I said 8 o'clock, but I saw it said 8:15.
Okay.
That was my mistake. So it should say 8 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. So there's the new guidelines will be sent around both by WhatsApp and the Loop, and it has been updated. The one I showed on the screen said 8:15, but I think it's since then been adjusted, and it is in fact 8 o'clock. Friday night there's going to be 2 minyanim as well, and that's also in the main minyan. Now Shabbos, it says here there's a minyan at 8 o'clock and then again at 8:40. So the
Right.
the 8 o'clock minyan is in the old Beis Medrash.
That is correct. That's the only minyan over the course of tomorrow morning and on Shabbos that will be held in the old Beis Medrash, unless there's a spillover by Mincha on Shabbos, which is at 6 o'clock, and there's not enough space in the main Beis Medrash. We'll do a spillover into the old Beis Medrash.
Okay. All right. And this will follow for Sunday morning as well. We don't have times yet for Sunday morning minyan.
Right. So
Okay.
this was sort of done
That's-
in terms of getting all this information out as fast as possible and as accurately as possible. We focused on tomorrow morning, and on Shabbos. And I think we're going to reconvene and send out another survey to more properly focus on the following week. So Sunday morning, and then the weekday minyanim. In the survey that Avigdor Hyman is going to send out for people to fill out for which minyanim they want to attend tomorrow morning and on Shabbos, there isn't anything about a weekday mincha marav minyan. That's going to be discussed after Shabbos, and then another survey is going to get sent out to more focus the following week. I think everybody's just trying to see how this whole process plays itself out, and if we need to adjust anything, we have that opportunity. So we're sort of taking it a little bit like a phase at a time.
Okay, so what you're asking for everybody is to be patient, to be flexible, to be understanding, and to be accommodating. Is that correct?
Listen, we want the shul to open up as quickly as possible and to the extent as normal as possible. But certain I think guidelines need to be put in place just in order to make sure that whatever steps are taken are being meted properly, and then we're able to sort of follow through. So I guess with the consultation of the Rav and the guidance of the Rav and Dr. Philipson, this was the process that we decided to move forward with.
Okay, so I see there's a few questions that are coming up in the chat, and I'd like you to speak about them. I take it from
Akiva, sorry to interrupt, but before the questions, I just want to emphasize what Paul said. It's not so much a survey as a registration. The importance of tracking who goes where, the consistency of people's attendance, not from a religious perspective, but just from a safety perspective, to make sure that we can really try to keep all the mispalim as safe as possible. And make sure that everybody has an opportunity to daven at the time that works best for them, and to work things out that we can accommodate as many people as possible in as safe a way as possible. It's very important for people to understand why they need to register. They need to really stick to that schedule. We don't want to put people in a difficult situation where somebody comes to a different minyan, then there's a bit of a disagreement. We want to make sure that people understand that we're trying our best to accommodate. And so the survey is really a pick your slot, and we will do our best to make sure that as many people can go to the minyanim that they want to go to whenever they can.
Could you confirm for us the use of Sfarim, which includes the library as well as the Eitzer and all the Sfarim? What should be done with that?
The Rav asked that nobody touch any of the Sfarim in the Beis Medrash. And so again, the idea of, as Dr. Philipson said, that you come with your sitter. And I'm not sure if we decided that a chumash would be placed at every... No, okay.
Chumash.
Okay, everyone, and I think everyone brings their own chumash, and the Rav said if you want to bring your own sefer, you can bring your own sefer as well, but not the shul Sfarim.
I just want to announce that the Eitzer Sfarim is locked.
Okay, good.
So nobody can go in there to take out. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Should be locked. And the kitchen should be locked. All the kitchens should be locked. And they shouldn't.
Okay, there is a question here, and actually it's quite pertaining. Has the shul been sanitized?
Ask Dr. Philipson if it has to be. Dr. Philipson, does the shul have to be sanitized? It wasn't used for 3 months.
Yeah, it's absolutely not necessary. It's there hasn't been any exposure. Generally, there is evidence that the virus can be recovered for about 3 weeks afterwards, but that's viral DNA. There's probably not that much risk a couple days, like 24 to 48 hours afterwards, depending on the surface.
Okay, thank you. We're all referring now to registration and for polling. Is Avigdor Hyman here? He's going to manage the registration, and it's important that everybody register. It's not a poll, it's registration. So Avigdor, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Akiva. So we're going to be using a service called Doodle, and this is available as a web app and also as an application on your phone. So if you have a smartphone, I'd encourage you to download Doodle, and you can create an account. We will circulate a URL, a link for each of the weeks as we go forward. So this first doodle poll, which is really the registration. And as Udi mentioned, the importance of actually registering for the minyan will ensure that if chas v'shalom there's a need to do contact tracing, we'll have a list of all of the people who are in each minyan. So when you click the link, you'll be brought to this page, and at the top of the page, it'll tell you the parsha, so you know you're on the right week as we get rolling ahead. So let me just scroll through here and explain how it works. Please make sure you do read these notes. It is important to understand what you're selecting. So number one, you're going to select each tefillah that you intend to attend. If you're not planning on attending a particular tefillah, just don't make a selection. You're going to make one selection for each family member that's attending. So if you and your son will be attending, each person must be entered individually, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, the reason for that is twofold. One, the number of seats available in the main base medrash is 56, and since most of the minyanim will be taking place in the main base medrash, each minyan is limited to 56 participants. So if you only enter yourself and you bring a child or another relative, if you don't enter them, their number won't count towards the total, and it would be possible to have too many people show up. And that, of course, is something we want to avoid. Okay, the next point is that the minyan times on the poll are rounded to the nearest 15 minutes. That's just a limitation of the software. So there is a list right here of what the actual start times are. So the start times in the poll are rounded to the nearest 15 minutes, but we will be following the times that the board and the Rav had indicated for each tefillah. So now I'm going to demonstrate how you go about selecting your times. So you'll come in, once you've registered in Doodle, and all you have to do is enter, to register is enter an email address and create a password to make an account. If you have a Google account or you have Facebook, you can use either of those to automatically create a login. So I've got one for myself, and I'm going to select which tefillahs I want for this Shabbos. And what we'll do is, as we go along each week, this will be expanded to include the available tefillahs. And you'll notice that right now, Ralph has already registered. So we have a total of 56 available spots for, excuse me, total of 56 available spots for Nate's tomorrow. And one of those spots is now occupied. Okay, so I'm going to be davening at the 8 o'clock minyan. And then I'm going to be, Kiva, or one of the guys, if you could clear the screen for me, thank you. Just ask everybody to refrain from, if you're working on an iPad or something, please don't touch the screen for a moment as we go through this. Okay, so Friday morning, I'll be davening the 8 o'clock minyan, and then I'm going to select that I want to daven mincha at 7. That's the 7 o'clock minyan. The end times are just approximate. And then Shabbos, I plan on davening in the 8:45 minyan. And I plan on coming for mincha. I don't plan on coming back for Mariv, so I'm not going to select this Mariv spot. And again, the times are just approximate. If I needed to get clarification on the times, I could scroll up and get the exact times that the minyan is going to take place. Now I'm going to be coming with my son. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit send, and that will register my spot. And then I'm going to click back to poll to go back to the poll. And it'll be bring me right back here. I'm going to click the plus button, and I'm going to add my son. And he's going to be joining me in each of those minyanim. And now you see that I'm going to hit send again. And I can go back to the poll if I want to just confirm that that is complete. And now I can see that 2 of the 56 spots are occupied on the 8 a.m. minyan. I'll just quickly show you what that looks like on your phone. And this is handy. This will be handy also for the Gaboyim to make sure that people that are coming are registered for the minyan.
You can hold it up to your camera if you need to, Avigdor.
Yes, I will. I just wanted to get to it. Okay. Let me just...
And while Avigdor goes through it, I guess if there's anybody
Okay.
with
So this
technical issues, just want to explain to him that there's other people who can help with that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If anybody has a problem, my email address is actually at the top of the poll. So if you have a problem and you need to reach out to me, feel free to email me. I'm happy to, it's not a problem. Happy to help anybody who has a challenge using the software. And that's it. And then at the, once the board and the Rav have decided when tefillos will be next week, we'll publish a new poll, and that can be sent out for everybody to register again.
I want to mention when tomorrow, when you come into Chakras, you'll see that the seats are the ends of the table. You should choose a seat that you want, and that's going to be your seat till the end of Corona. And that's the seat that you'll be assigned, and you'll tell, so go in and see which seat you want and say, this is the seat I want, and that will be your seat till, and you'll give it to the Gabon, and they'll put the number on and the name, and that's where your seat will be. You shouldn't interchange seats. It should always be the same seat, the same person, the same place. And there's 2 minyanims. The second minyan could also go the same, but on Shabbos morning, let's say everyone should be in the same place, one way daven Friday night and Shabbos morning. And those who go to the 8 o'clock minyan will have also one place, but most of the minyan will be now in the new Medrash.
Okay, just some people asked about access to lockers. Ralph, Udi, is that acceptable?
Ralph, you're on mute.
So what do you tell me? Lockers are okay to use? Can we bring personal effects?
I think we tried to make the rules as non-prescriptive as possible. We want people to act with seichel. We don't want to dictate everybody's step and everywhere they go. We're relying on people to both exercise common sense and also sensitivity towards other people. There's going to be a lot of different people of different age groups with potentially different, kind of risk categories. And we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to participate in tefillah. We know that everybody's behavior can dictate what happens currently, but also chas v'shalom in the future. So it's very important that we're respectful. So yes, people could go to their lockers. They should go to their cubbies. They need to be socially distant. People should not be moving around the building. All those touches and contacts are increasing the exposure to people, and we want to limit that. But we understand people want to go get their talis that maybe they haven't used for the past few months. So using common sense is important, and listening to the Gabayim who might, be uncomfortable by people being there at the same time. Just exercise common sense, respect for one another, and the fact that, if we do this properly, Mirz Hashem, we can start easing it and making it more normal in shul.
And Odi, just to carry over that thought of the Gabayim, we were hoping on this Zoom call to be able to sort of put out feelers in terms of potential volunteers for the specific minyanim, and to ask that those people are in charge of making sure that the people that had indicated that they're attending are actually there and nobody else is. And also to just make sure that people as best as possible are adhering and are following the guidelines so that it's safe for everybody. So Akiva, I don't know, is there an email address that people can maybe, if they want to participate, can send their name or their information to?
I think once we see the list of where people are davening, either they'll private message us or we'll private message them and say, since you're committed to the 650 minyan, do you mind being in charge, being one of the monitors in charge to take attendance and to ensure all those rules? So let's wait till we get the polls, and then 100% we'll get after them to find monitors as soon as they sign up for the minyan.
Okay, great.
Okay. I want to thank everybody, thank the board for coming on. All the hard work that they've done. Of course, thank the Rav for everything that he's done. Again, everybody, please remain flexible. These rules can change and everything can change as time goes along. These are baby steps, and we're walking before we're running. We're really almost crawling before we're walking. Tomorrow there is a Nate's minyan, as the Rav said, and then a 650 minyan and an 8 o'clock minyan. So hopefully you can all register. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. At 10 o'clock is Tseil Mad tonight, sponsored by the Lewis and Menzalewski's family. Thank you, Avigdor. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Udi.